Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome to Level D Mathematics. This week we will be discussing about Unit 13 Area and Perimeter. In this chapter, our topic is composite figures. What are composite figures? Well, composite figures are irregular shapes that are made up of two or more shapes joined together. It can be rectangles, squares, circles, triangles, any shapes. When you combine two or more different shapes together to form an irregular shape, that figure is called composite figure. But in this topic, we will be discussing about those composite figures that are made up of rectangles and squares. Our objectives are to visualize that the composite figures can be dissected into two or more shapes, and how to find the perimeter of composite figures that are made up of squares and or rectangles. Now, if you look closely to these two figures, you will notice that this composite figure is made up of this one square and one rectangle, whereas this composite figure is made up of 1, 2, and 3 rectangles. Basically, dissection means division. Just how I divided this composite figure into one square and one rectangle, and this one into 3 different rectangles. But you can also divide the same figure into other shapes. For example, this figure, first one. We can divide the same composite figure into 2 rectangles. And this one. And this one, I'm going to divide it into 2 rectangles this time. Previously, I divided them into 3 rectangles. And now I have divided it into 2 rectangles. From this, we have learned that we can dissect a composite figure into 2 or more rectangles and squares. Moving on to our next objective, that is perimeter. What is perimeter? Well, perimeter is just a math term that means the distance or length around any shape. In other words, it is the distance around the outside of any figure. How do we calculate a perimeter? Well, we calculate it by adding up the lengths of all sides of any figure. Let's learn through an example. In this example, we have a composite figure. To find the perimeter of this composite figure, our first step would be to find how many sides are there in this composite figure. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 sides. This means we need to have 6 lengths to find its perimeter. Starting from one point, let's start from this line. 1, 7 centimeters, plus 15 centimeters, plus 3 centimeters, plus 12 centimeters, plus 4 centimeters, plus 3 centimeters. By adding up all these 6 sides, we get the perimeter of 44 centimeters. Now let's learn through another example. Umar is laying turf in his garden. What is the perimeter of the garden covered by the turf? To find the perimeter of this composite figure, my first step would be to see how many sides this composite figure has. Now starting from this line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This means we need 8 lengths to find its perimeter. But the problem here is we don't have the length of this UV, this SR, and this QR. Sometimes in composite figures, you have to figure out some measurements that aren't given. But if we notice, this side PW is equal to this side QR, and this side WV is equal to this side SR. This means if PW is 13 meters, this QR is also 13 meters. If WV is 6 meters, this SR is also 6 meters. Now we are left with only one side, this UV. The opposite side of this UV is TS, and this is 6 meters. If this is 6 meters, this UV is also 6 meters. 6 meters. Once you have the measurements of all sides, all we have to do to find the perimeter is add them up. Starting from this one point, PW 13 plus 6 plus 6 plus 11 plus 6 plus 6 plus 13 and plus 23. By adding all these sides, we get 84. This means the perimeter of this composite figure is 84. Moving on to my next example. Find the perimeter of the figure. Now we have this composite figure. To find the perimeter, we will start from step number 1. First step is to find how many sides it has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we don't have the length of these two sides, this BC and the CD. To find the length of this BC, we need to subtract this 22 and 17. 22 minus 17 equals to 5 centimeters. This means this BC is 5 centimeters. Now to find the length of CD, looking closely I see that this AB is 25 centimeters and this FE is 32 centimeters. The difference between 32 and 25 would be the length of this my CD. 32 minus 25 equals to 7 centimeters. This means the length of this side CD is 7 centimeters. 7 centimeters. Once you have the lengths of all sides, all we need to do is add them up. Starting from this side AB, 25 plus 5 plus 7 plus 17 plus 32 plus 22, that makes 108. This means the perimeter of this composite figure is 8 centimeters. To get better in maths, all it takes is practice. I have attached this Metholia link for further practice. I hope you all have understood how to find the perimeter of composite figures. If you have any confusion or questions, you can always ask me on Google Classroom. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.